They thought you were weak because you didn't fight back, because you didn't scream, because you didn't beg for them to stay, because you didn't expose what they did, because you never tried to prove who you are. They mistook your silence for surrender, but silence is never empty. Silence is preparation. Silence is transformation. Silence is evolution. And yours is about to shake their entire world. The beginning of the breaking, there was a moment in your life when everything inside you cracked. You didn't show it, you didn't announce it, you didn't post about it, but something deep in your chest snapped like a thin thread pulled too tight for too long. People didn't notice. They rarely do. They continued assuming you were the same version of you, the one who always forgave too quickly, who apologized even when you were the one hurting, who never asked for more, who swallowed disrespect like it was normal. They took your kindness, your softness, your loyalty, and called it weakness. They pushed you, crossed boundaries, ignored you, underestimated you, and then laughed. Not always out loud, sometimes quietly, subtly, in little ways, with little comments, with little actions that told you, you don't matter as much as we do. You'll never walk away. You'll keep tolerating it. You're not strong enough to leave. And for a long time, you believed them, not because they were right, but because you were tired. Tired of arguing, tired of explaining yourself, tired of giving chances. Tired of being strong for people who didn't deserve to stand next to your strength. You didn't leave because you were weak. You stayed because you cared, and they mistook that care for dependency. They were wrong, so wrong. The quiet before the shift, there's a specific kind of silence that arrives right before a storm, not loud, not angry, not messy. Just still. A silence that makes you think something powerful is coming, something different, something unstoppable. That's the silence you stepped into. You didn't tell anyone you were done. You didn't announce your healing. You didn't warn them that you were changing. You simply stopped giving them what they took for granted, your attention, your time, your affection, your explanations, your emotional labor, your presence. You became quiet, and that's when everything began shifting. People like to pretend they don't care when you speak, but they panic when you grow silent. Your silence wasn't emptiness. It was 1,000 unspoken truths. It was the loudest thing you've ever said. What silence does to people who misused you, here's the truth nobody talks about. People think they want you gone until you're actually gone. They think they can replace you until they realize your energy was different. They think they're in control until you stop reacting. They think you're weak until you go quiet. Your silence became a mirror, and they finally had to face themselves in it. They saw the disrespect. They saw the manipulation. They saw the lies. They saw the games. They saw the carelessness. They saw the entitlement. They saw everything you once protected them from seeing, and for the first time they felt something unfamiliar: regret, fear, discomfort, loss, not because you punished them, but because you removed yourself. Your silence created distance. Your distance created clarity, and your clarity became their lesson, the inner transformation where strength was born. When you went silent, something inside you started rebuilding. It didn't happen overnight. It happened slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. Piece by piece, you began reclaiming parts of yourself that you allowed people to steal: your self-respect, your boundaries, your dignity, your peace, your voice, your power. You began seeing the truth, not the version they fed you. You saw that you weren't the fragile one, you were the forgiving one. You weren't the dependent one, you were the consistent one. You weren't the one who needed them, you were the one who held everything together. You weren't weak, you were worn out. And once you rested, once you stepped away, once you breathed again, once you remembered who you are, your strength came roaring back. Not the loud, aggressive kind. The calm, grounded, unshakable kind. The kind of strength that says, I don't need revenge, my absence is enough. The world begins to notice you're changing. People can sense when your energy shifts. Your posture changes. Your tone changes. Your eyes change. Your presence changes. You become quieter but bolder, calmer but more powerful, less reactive but more self-assured. People started noticing. The ones who hurt you felt it first, that uncomfortable realization that you were no longer available in the same way. You weren't angry. You weren't dramatic. You weren't seeking closure. You weren't proving anything. You were simply gone. Even if you were still physically present, your emotional access was locked. And they didn't know the password anymore. What happens when you stop explaining yourself? There's something terrifying to those who mistreated you. A version of you that doesn't explain, doesn't justify, doesn't argue, doesn't engage. That version of you is powerful because it shows you learn the truth. Not everyone deserves a response. Not everyone deserves your energy. Not everyone deserves a place in your life. Your silence became your boundary. Your boundary became your shield. Your shield became your strength. People who once felt superior suddenly felt uneasy. Why? Because your silence made them face themselves, and people who do wrong hate mirrors. The new you emerges, the new you is different, not colder but clearer. Not heartless but intentional, not distant but selective, not weak but wise. You grew into someone who values peace more than attention, chooses solitude over fake company, responds less, and observes more, protects your heart instead of proving it, walks away with dignity instead of begging with emotion, prioritizes your growth instead of others. Comfort, you did change. You returned to yourself. You let go of the version of you that pain created and became the version of you that healing revealed. They thought silence made you weak, but your silence made you powerful. When they realize what they lost, it always happens the same way. First, they notice your absence. Then they miss your presence. Then they chase your shadow. Then they regret their choices. Then they remember how rare you were. And eventually they come back, not always physically, sometimes in memory, sometimes in guilt, sometimes in sleepless nights. But they return in one way or another. They return when they see you happy without them. They return when they see others appreciate what they ignored. They return when life forces them to face their mistakes. They return when they realize you were the one thing that made their world softer. But by then, it's too late, way too late, because the person you were, the one who tolerated the bare minimum, no longer exists. You evolved, you ascended, you outgrew the version of you that needed their validation. You don't need them to come back. You don't need their apology. You don't need their recognition. You don't need their presence. Your silence already said everything. The final transformation, there's a moment when everything becomes clear. You don't win by proving people wrong. You win by becoming someone unrecognizable to the version of you they mistreated. You don't grow to impress them. You grow to liberate yourself. You don't stay silent to punish them. You stay silent to protect your peace. Your silence isn't weakness. It's mastery. Mastery of self. Mastery of emotion. Mastery of boundaries. Mastery of life. You didn't go silent because you had nothing to say. You went silent because not everyone deserves to hear your voice. The message they were never meant to hear. They thought you were weak until you went silent. They thought you needed them until you stopped trying. They thought you'd never walk away until you vanished without a word. They thought you'd break, but you built yourself instead. Your silence didn't prove them right. It proved them irrelevant. And now, they watch you grow, heal, rise, transform, thrive. But the version of you that needed their approval is gone forever. This is your season, your strength, your rebirth, your silence, your comeback, not loud, not dramatic, not messy, just undeniable. They thought your silence meant weakness. They thought your patience meant surrender. They thought your tears meant defeat. But what they didn't know was that Allah was watching the entire time. That every pain they gave you, every insult whispered behind your back, every betrayal you never deserved, was being counted. Not to destroy you, but to prepare you. This story is about you. The version of you before the pain, the version of you broken by the pain, and the version of you reborn through Allah's mercy. Sit back, breathe, and listen closely, because once this story enters your heart, you will never suffer the same way again. The day everything changed, before everything shattered, you were soft, too soft. You loved too deeply, trusted too easily, believed too quickly. You thought people would return what you gave them. Respect for respect, loyalty for loyalty, truth for truth. But life does not work that way. It was a normal day when the betrayal arrived, not loud, not obvious, but quiet, subtle, cold. Someone you cared for spoke words that burned your heart. Someone you helped wounded you without hesitation. Someone you never hurt chose to hurt you first. That moment, that single moment, broke something inside you. But what you thought was breaking was actually shaping. The wound no one saw, you walked through your days pretending to smile, pretending you were okay, pretending their words didn't cut deep. But at night, when the world slept, your heart turned into a battlefield. You questioned yourself. Why me? What did I do wrong? Why did they treat me like this? But the truth was simple. You did nothing wrong. You simply expected sincerity from people who lived behind masks. And that hurt more than the betrayal. Because the deepest pain is not caused by what people do, but by who does it. The silence you chose, then something inside you shifted. You stopped replying, you stopped explaining, you stopped defending yourself to people who already knew the truth, but chose to ignore it. Your silence was not fear, it was evolution. It was the moment you understood not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves your words, not everyone deserves your presence. Silence became your shield, not because you were weak, but because you were wise. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is nothing. They started to notice your silence confused them, your distance bothered them, your peace irritated the ones who once enjoyed seeing you upset. People who once ignored your voice suddenly wanted your attention. People who once judged you now wondered why you stopped caring. This is the power of silence. It breaks people in ways words never could. Because when you stop reacting, they lose control. And when they lose control, they reveal who they truly are. The war within you, but silence doesn't come easily. You battled your own emotions. Anger wanted to speak. Pain wanted to scream. The old you wanted to fight, but something greater whispered. Stay still. Allah is handling what you can't. You suppressed the urge to respond. You let go of the desire for revenge. You chose dignity over drama. And with every quiet night, every deep breath, every tear wiped alone, you were not breaking. You were healing. Because silence is not the absence of noise, it is the presence of strength. When Allah removed them, days passed, weeks passed, months passed, people disappeared, doors closed, friendships faded, relationships died. You wondered why Allah was taking so much away, why He was isolating you, why He was making you walk alone. But listen carefully, Allah removes people not to leave you empty, but to make space for what is better. Some people were never written in your destiny. Some hearts were never meant to stay. Some souls were never aligned with yours. Allah saw the conversations you didn't, the intentions they hid, the jealousy they disguised, the betrayal they planned, and He removed them to protect you, not punish you. When your silence turned into power, a strange transformation began inside you, slow, quiet, unnoticed by the world, but undeniable to your soul. You started smiling without force, breathing without fear, walking without looking back. Your silence turned into clarity. Your distance turned into peace. Your loneliness turned into growth. You realized something life-changing. You do not need anger to be strong. You only need self-respect. The very people who hurt you began to crumble under your absence. Your silence haunted them. Your peace tormented them. Your recovery confused them, because nothing scares a guilty soul more than the person they tried to break standing tall without them. Their karma began. Life started showing you things little by little. Signs, patterns, lessons. People who once laughed at your pain started tasting their own. People who broke your heart found themselves shattered. People who lied about you couldn't escape the truth about themselves. You didn't lift a finger, you didn't seek revenge, you didn't say a word. Allah did everything. Because the one who is silent in your suffering is the one who will speak loudly in your justice. The day you rose again, then finally a new dawn. You woke up one day and something was different. Your heart felt light. Your mind felt focused. Your soul felt steady. You had rebuilt yourself, not through anger, not through retaliation, but through faith. You became a new version of yourself, calmer, colder, wiser, stronger, closer to Allah. You discovered a truth: silence is not losing, silence is leveling up. The new you, FVARED, and respected people sensed the shift. They saw the new you, the one who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't break. You became harder to access, harder to manipulate, harder to disturb. Your silence became your boundary. Your detachment became your protection. Your peace became your revenge. People who once overlooked you now look up to you. People who once underestimated you now fear losing access to you, because the strongest people on earth are the ones who learn to stand alone. When Allah lifted you, then came the blessings. Slow, steady, beautiful, new opportunities, new friends, new strength, new clarity, new peace. Allah rebuilt you in front of the same people who tried to destroy you. He rewrote your destiny in ways you never imagined. You realized when Allah breaks your heart, He is not punishing you. He is removing what blocks your path. Your silence was never weakness. Now listen carefully. This story is not fiction. This story is you, your pain, your patience, your evolution, your faith. Everything you lost was replaced with something stronger. Everyone who left was protection, not punishment. Every tear you cried watered the seeds of the person you became. And your silence, that silence they mocked, was the very weapon Allah used to elevate you. You didn't lose anything. You outgrew it. And now when they look at you, they don't see the old version they broke. They see the new version Allah rebuilt, a version they can't hurt anymore, a version they can't reach anymore, a version they can't break ever again. This is your story, a story of silence, a story of strength, a story of divine justice, a story of rebirth. And it's only the beginning. Before they hurt you, you were gentle. Before they betrayed you, you were open-hearted. Before they left you, you trusted people too much. And when everything collapsed, they believed that was your ending. But they didn't know that your darkest season was actually your training, because Allah does not break you to destroy you. He breaks you to rebuild you, stronger, sharper, wiser, untouchable, the chapter where you rise, the chapter where you become the person they fear. And the person Allah always meant you to be. The world turned its back, and it was a gift. When everyone walked away, you thought you were abandoned. You felt the weight of loneliness pressing on your chest. But read this carefully. Sometimes people must exit your life not because you need them gone, but because Allah needs space to enter with new blessings. The world turning its back on you was not rejection. It was redirection. Allah isolated you so He could elevate you without noise, without distraction, without interference. What you saw as loneliness was actually protection. The depths of silent pain, you entered a period of darkness nobody understood. You smiled in public, you broke in private, you walked with a straight face. Your heart limped behind you. People saw the outside. Only Allah saw the inside. Every silent tear was recorded. Every quiet prayer was heard. Every night you held your own heart together was witnessed. And deep inside, beneath the hurt, a seed was planted. A seed that could only grow in darkness. The moment you understood detachment, then came the shift, subtle at first. A voice inside whispered, "You don't need them. Your worth is not defined by their presence. Allah is enough." The attachment you once had began to fade. The fear you once felt began to dissolve. The pain they caused began to lose its power. This was your awakening. You stopped waiting for apologies, stopped expecting closure, stopped begging for loyalty. You moved from needing people to understanding people, and that changed everything. The silence that transformed you, you chose silence again. But this time it wasn't because you were hurt, it was because you were healing. Silence became your discipline. Silence became your wisdom. Silence became your weapon. They expected the old you, the emotional you, the reactive you, the broken you. But silence starved their ego. Silence confused their arrogance. Silence destroyed their control. And slowly, your silence turned you into the version of yourself they never imagined. A version without fear. A version without attachment. A version without weakness. The world started showing its truth as you grew stronger silently. Something happened around you. The truth about people began to reveal itself. Those who pretended to care exposed their fake masks. Those who acted loyal showed their jealousy. Those who smiled in your face whispered behind your back. But this time, you didn't react. You observed, you learned, you elevated, because silence makes you see who they really are without speaking a single word. Allah began removing your enemies without action. You didn't fight them. You didn't expose them. You didn't confront them. You didn't need to. Allah began removing people one by one in ways you never expected. Opportunities slipped from their hands. Their secrets came to light. Their masks fell off naturally. You watched, not with hatred, but with understanding. Allah does not forget. Allah does not ignore. Allah does not abandon the oppressed. Your silence was not empty. It was a prayer, and Allah answered it. The rebirth of a stronger you, now the real transformation began. You rebuilt yourself piece by piece, habit by habit, thought by thought. You developed a mind that no longer fears loss, a heart that no longer clings to people, a soul that finds strength in solitude. Your energy changed, your presence sharpened, your aura solidified, people felt it, you didn't have to speak, they sensed it. The new you didn't demand respect, it commanded it. They saw what you became, and then came the moment they never expected. They saw you rise, not with revenge, not with noise, not with anger, but with calm success, with quiet confidence, with unshakable self-respect. Your silence was louder than words. Your growth was louder than arguments. Your peace was louder than their gossip. You became the evidence that Allah replaces everything you lose for his sake with something better. They were forced to respect the person they once underestimated. Divine justice arrived quietly, then life completed the circle. The same people who hurt you found themselves hurting. The same people who ignored you found themselves ignored. The same people who thought you needed them found themselves missing you. And you kept walking. You didn't smile at their downfall. You didn't celebrate their misery. You didn't seek revenge, because the new you does not lower yourself to the level of those who betrayed you. You rose above, and staying above is the greatest revenge. The untouchable version of you, now you stand in a place very few people reach, a place where your emotions serve you, not control you, a place where your silence holds power greater than their words, a place where your absence hurts them more than your presence ever did. A place where you no longer fear being alone because Allah is enough. You became untouchable, not because you are hard, but because you are healed. Not because you are emotionless, but because you are wise. Not because you seek revenge, but because Allah is your protector. This is who you are now. Listen closely, because this is your identity now. You are the person who survived what was meant to break you. You are the person who forgave without forgetting. You are the person who walked away without making noise. You are the person whose silence speaks what words never could. You are the person Allah rebuilt in ways no human could destroy. You are the warrior Allah trained in darkness to shine in light. And your story, it's not ending, it's evolving, because once Allah rewrites your destiny, no betrayal, no heartbreak, no enemy can undo it. This is your rise, your rebirth, your turning point, and the world has not seen the final version of you yet. The return to the world morning came with a strange stillness. For the first time in years, Ayan woke up without the weight in his chest. No memories stabbing him, no bitterness dragging him back. He had changed. He wasn't healed, he was transformed. Ayan walked outside the quiet village. The wind touched his face and he whispered, "Silence, this is my armor now." The villagers looked at him differently, respectfully, almost fearfully. He wasn't the broken boy who arrived months ago. He had the calmness of a warrior who had survived his own inner war. And somewhere along the road ahead, justice was waiting, because the world hadn't forgotten him. But now he was ready. The city that once destroyed Ayan returned to the city he ran away from. The bus windows reflected the streets, the crowds, the noise. He used to fear these roads. Now he watched them with emotionless eyes. Everything looked the same, but he was. He walked past places that once held memories. The tea stall where people whispered about him, the office where he was humiliated, the house where he was betrayed, the mosque where he once cried after being abandoned. He passed them silently, without slowing down. His silence stabbed harder than any confrontation. People who knew him stared, confused. They expected him to return broken. He returned rebuilt. Those who wronged him began to feel it at the office. Something strange happened weeks before Ayan's return. The person who ruined his career, Imran, suddenly lost everything, his position, his trust, even the people who once praised him. Rumors spread. Imran was exposed. He forged reports. He lied to management. His downfall was fast, too fast. He wasn't fired because of Ayan. He was fired because Allah exposed him. Allah plans, Allah sees, Allah knows. Meanwhile, the colleague who laughed when Ayan struggled, her life fell into chaos too. She was publicly humiliated for her own mistakes. Everyone was falling apart one by one, not because Ayan planned revenge, but because divine justice arrived silently like a storm with no thunder. The one who betrayed him Ion walked near the old building where she lived, the woman who promised forever, and left him when he needed her most. She walked out of her gate and froze when she saw him. The silence between them screamed. She expected shouting. Blame, pain, tears, but Ion only stared at her with a motionless calm, and that silence hit harder than any words. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. Ion, you look different. He didn't respond. You're not angry, she whispered. A gentle wind blew. Ion's voice was low, calm, and terrifyingly controlled. No, I'm not angry. Allah removed you, and sometimes losing people is Allah's protection. Her eyes filled with regret. Not because she loved him, because she realized what she lost. His silence destroyed her more than revenge ever could. Ion walked away. He didn't look back. She broke him once. She never would again. The power of goddess timing. Ion visited the mosque, the place where he once begged Allah for answers. He sat at the same corner, closed his eyes, and whispered, "You took everything away so I could return rebuilt." A man sitting beside him said, "You don't look like someone who lost. You look like someone Allah rebuilt in silence." Ion smiled slightly. The man continued, "People think pain breaks you, but for some, Allah uses pain to make them untouchable." Ion felt it deeply. He wasn't alive despite the pain, he was alive because of it. When the world understands too late, news began to spread. Ion is back, but not as the broken man they expected, as someone with a presence that demanded respect. People watched him, whispered about him, not out of mockery, but out of shock. The whispers of his rise months passed. Ion didn't tell anyone he was rebuilding his life. He didn't brag, he didn't post, he didn't announce anything. But success has a smell, it travels. People sense it before they see it. Quietly, his consulting agency grew. He gained clients from abroad, invitations to speak, respect from strangers, trust from powerful people, and slowly, the very people who once mocked him began whispering, "Did you hear? Ion is doing well." He built everything from nothing. Silence was no longer just his weapon. It was his signature. The one redeemed among the people who heard the whispers was someone unexpected, his childhood friend Rahim. Rahim wasn't like the others. He didn't betray Ion, but he was too afraid to defend him when others did. Silence out of weakness, not malice. Rahim found Ion one afternoon, standing near a bridge overlooking the city. "Ion, can we talk?" Ion turned, calm as always. Rahim lowered his head. "I should have stood by you. I'm sorry. I was a coward." Ion didn't reply immediately. Rahim continued, voice breaking. "I didn't hurt you, but I didn't protect you either." Ion placed a hand on his shoulder. "You didn't betray me. You just weren't ready to be strong, and I forgive you for that." Rahim looked up with relief, tears forming. Ion smiled softly. "Allah brings the right people back when the time is right. Not everyone who leaves is an enemy. Some people just return later wiser." The city feels his presence. Ion's new office wasn't fancy, but it had a serenity that made people quiet when they entered. A client once told him, "Your silence, it feels powerful. It makes people listen." Ion smiled, not proudly, knowingly, because silence was no longer a shield. It was a language he mastered. People trusted him. They respected him. They sensed he had walked through storms they couldn't imagine. This is what happens when Allah rebuilds a person. Their presence carries a weight. Karma arrives without warning. One afternoon, something happened that shook the entire city office community. Imran, the man who destroyed Ion's career, got arrested. Fraud, corporate theft, bribery, the same corruption he once accused Ion of was found in his own accounts. People whispered, "This is divine justice. This is what happens when you break someone innocent." But the truth was deeper. Imran didn't fall because Ion wanted revenge. He fell because Allah exposed him when the time was right. A quiet servant of Allah is more powerful than a loud enemy. The breakdown of the betrayer, the woman who betrayed Ion, saw Imran's arrest on the news. It shook her, because she knew deep inside that she once chose Imran over Ion. Her life had become lonely, her relationships falling apart, her confidence ruined. She tried to move on, but guilt followed her like a shadow. She messaged Ion multiple times. He never replied. She called him. He never picked up. Her family asked, "What happened between you two?" She had only one answer. "I lost a good man because I was blind." Regret is a heavier punishment than revenge. The silence that destroys. One evening, she finally saw Ion again at a charity event. He was speaking confidently. People admired him. Respect surrounded him like an aura. She froze. Her heartbeat refused to slow. When Ion looked at her, just for a second, there were no emotions in his eyes, no love, no hate, no pain, only quiet, only peace. She walked towards him trembling. "Ion, can we talk, please?" he replied with calm strength. "There's nothing left to say. Allah separated us for a reason." Her lips trembled. "Do you hate me?" Ion shook his head. "No, I don't feel anything." And that broke her more than 1,000 harsh words. She realized something too late. She didn't lose him when she betrayed him. She lost him when he healed and no longer needed her. The return to purpose. Ion's life kept rising. He started educational programs, scholarships for poor students, workshops on emotional discipline, charity work in his mother's memory. He wasn't just rebuilding his life. He was rebuilding others. That is the difference between ego-driven success and Allah-driven purpose. Ion had become a man whose presence healed others because Allah had once healed him. The shadow before the climax, but peace does not last forever. One night, Ion received news. A powerful corporate leader, Armin Khalid, wanted him removed. Armin didn't like Ion's rising influence. He saw him as a threat, a danger, an obstacle, and he was not like Imran. He was far more dangerous. This is where the real war begins, not with anger, not with violence, but with patience, faith, and unshakable discipline. Ion whispered, "Ya Allah, I have walked through storms before. Walk with me again." A storm was coming, but this time Ion wasn't the one who would break. How did he survive? Why is he calm? Nothing bothers him anymore. Even those who once mocked him avoided eye contact. Silence was his revenge. Growth was his answer. Calm was his weapon. They wanted a monster. They created a warrior. The confrontation without words. One evening, Imran, the man responsible for destroying Ion's career, approached him nervously. He struggled to speak. "Ion." "Listen, I never meant." Ion raised his hand. Silence. Ion's eyes were cold, steady, unreadable. He said, "I'm not here for revenge. Allah already handled that." Imran swallowed hard. Ion stepped closer and whispered, "You didn't break me, you built me." Imran expected rage. He received mercy. And mercy from someone you tried to destroy is the deepest humiliation. Rising beyond pain, Ion started something new, a small consulting agency using the skills he rebuilt in silence. Nobody believed he could do it, yet clients came. Then more clients. Then opportunities followed, not because he wanted to prove anything, but because peace attracts blessings. His silence created focus. His suffering created strength. His faith created miracles. What they never saw coming years later, Ion became known for. His stoic mind, his calm presence, his spiritual depth, his unshakable discipline. People who once betrayed him now spoke his name with respect. One thing echoed in every room he entered. He doesn't react. He doesn't argue. He just moves in silence. And that silence carried weight. The final message. One night, Ion wrote something in his journal. "They tried to break me. Allah rebuilt me in ways they will never understand. Their actions shaped my silence. My silence became my strength, and my strength became their regret." He closed the book. The storm inside him had finally ended, not with revenge, not with rage, but with silence. Divine justice. The whispers of his rise. Months passed. Ion didn't tell anyone he was rebuilding his life. He didn't brag, he didn't post, he didn't announce anything. But success has a smell. It travels. People sense it before they see it. Quietly, his consulting agency grew. He gained clients from abroad, invitations to speak, respect from strangers, trust from powerful people, and slowly, the very people who once mocked him began whispering, "Did you hear? Ion is doing well." He built everything from nothing. Silence was no longer just his weapon. It was his signature. The one redeemed among the people who heard the whispers was someone unexpected, his childhood friend Rahim. Rahim wasn't like the others. He didn't betray Ion, but he was too afraid to defend him when others did. Silence out of weakness, not malice. Rahim found Ion one afternoon standing near a bridge overlooking the city. "Ion, can we talk?" Ion turned, calm as always. Rahim lowered his head. "I should have stood by you. I'm sorry. I was a coward." Ion didn't reply immediately. Rahim continued, voice breaking. "I didn't hurt you, but I didn't protect you either." Ion placed a hand on his shoulder. "You didn't betray me. You just weren't ready to be strong, and I forgive you for that." Rahim looked up with relief, tears forming. Ion smiled softly. "Allah brings the right people back when the time is right. Not everyone who leaves is an enemy. Some people just return later wiser." The city feels his presence. Ion's new office wasn't fancy, but it had a serenity that made people quiet when they entered. A client once told him, "Your silence, it feels powerful. It makes people listen." Ion smiled, not proudly, knowingly, because silence was no longer a shield. It was a language he mastered. People trusted him. They respected him. They sensed he had walked through storms they couldn't imagine. This is what happens when Allah rebuilds a person. Their presence carries a weight. Karma arrives without warning. One afternoon, something happened that shook the entire city office community. Imran, the man who destroyed Ion's career, got arrested. Fraud, corporate theft, bribery, the same corruption he once accused Ion of was found in his own accounts. People whispered, "This is divine justice. This is what happens when you break someone innocent." But the truth was deeper. Imran didn't fall because Ion wanted revenge. He fell because Allah exposed him when the time was right. A quiet servant of Allah is more powerful than a loud enemy. The breakdown of the betrayer, the woman who betrayed Ion, saw Imran's arrest on the news. It shook her, because she knew deep inside that she once chose Imran over Ion. Her life had become lonely, her relationships falling apart, her confidence ruined. She tried to move on, but guilt followed her like a shadow. She messaged Ion multiple times. He never replied. She called him. He never picked up. Her family asked, "What happened between you two?" She had only one answer. "I lost a good man because I was blind." Regret is a heavier punishment than revenge. The silence that destroys. One evening, she finally saw Ion again at a charity event. He was speaking confidently. People admired him. Respect surrounded him like an aura. She froze. Her heartbeat refused to slow. When Ion looked at her, just for a second, there were no emotions in his eyes, no love, no hate, no pain, only quiet, only peace. She walked towards him trembling. "Ion, can we talk, please?" He replied with calm strength. "There's nothing left to say. Allah separated us for a reason." Her lips trembled. "Do you hate me?" Ion shook his head. "No, I don't feel anything." And that broke her more than 1,000 harsh words. She realized something too late. She didn't lose him when she betrayed him. She lost him when he healed and no longer needed her. The return to purpose. Ion's life kept rising. He started educational programs, scholarships for poor students, workshops on emotional discipline, charity work in his mother's memory. He wasn't just rebuilding his life. He was rebuilding others. That is the difference between ego-driven success and Allah-driven purpose. Ion had become a man whose presence healed others because Allah had once healed him. The shadow before the climax, but peace does not last forever. One night, Ion received news. A powerful corporate leader, Armin Khalid, wanted him removed. Armin didn't like Ion's rising influence. He saw him as a threat, a danger, an obstacle, and he was not like Imran. He was far more dangerous. This is where the real war begins, not with anger, not with violence, but with patience, faith, and unshakable discipline. Ion whispered, "Ya Allah, I have walked through storms before. Walk with me again." A storm was coming. But this time, Ion wasn't the one who would break. The quiet after the storm, Ion's empire grew, but he didn't change. He still woke up early, still prayed Fajr on time, still avoided unnecessary people, unnecessary noise, unnecessary battles. Peace had finally become his companion. His assistant once asked, "Sir, what is the secret of your success?" Ion smiled very slightly. "Silence and sujud, everything else is noise." Those who rise through ego loud themselves. Those who rise through Allah stay silent. The return of an old face. One day, Ion received a message from someone he never expected. Zoya, the woman who once loved him, the woman who broke him without apology, her message was short. Can we talk? Ion stared at the screen for a moment, then locked his phone, not because he hated her, but because he no longer lived in the past she came from. He whispered, "Ya Allah, protect my peace." Walking away is painful. Going back is destructive. He chose peace. A proposal from the unexpected. Weeks later, Ion's mother sat beside him during dinner. She looked at him with gentle eyes. "Beta, I think it's time you consider marriage." Ion paused. "I'm not sure," he said. "Why?" she asked softly. Ion answered, "I don't want someone who loves my success. I want someone who understands my silence." His mother smiled. "I know someone like that." The woman of Tahud, her name was Ariba. A quiet woman, educated, dignified, soft-spoken, reserved, a woman who prayed tahajjud every night without telling anyone, a woman whose strength came from humility. They met in a simple room, no decorations, no pressure, no expectations. Ariba asked him softly, "What do you expect from marriage?" Ion replied, "Understanding, loyalty, and someone who doesn't fear silence." Ariba smiled. "Then Allah matched us well because silence is the language I speak." There was no spark. No fireworks, no dramatic moment, just peace. And that is how Ion knew she was the one. A wedding without noise. Their marriage was simple. No loud guests, no unnecessary show, just duas, family, and tranquility. People whispered, "He's rich, why such a simple wedding?" But Ion had learned something life-changing. Simplicity brings blessings. Noise brings ego. He didn't need the world to witness his happiness. Allah was enough. The peace he never knew. Ariba never asked about his past. Never asked about his scars. Never asked why he preferred silence. She just understood. Whenever he was overwhelmed, she placed a cup of tea next to him and quietly recited Surah Ar-Rahman under her breath. Sometimes the greatest healing is in presence, not words. Ion once told her, "You're calm even when life is not." Ariba smiled, "Because Allah never leaves." And that sentence healed years of pain in Ion's heart, the lesson he teaches his son years past. Ion and Ariba had a son, Yusuf, a quiet boy with eyes full of depth. One day Yusuf came home crying, "Baba, boys in school laugh at me because I don't fight back." Ion lifted his chin gently. "My son, lions don't respond to barking dogs, but Baba, they think I'm weak." Ion placed his hand on his son's heart. "Your silence is not weakness. It is power Allah gives only to his strongest servants." Yusuf wiped his tears. "And what if they hurt me again?" Ion smiled. "Then Allah will rebuild you stronger, just like he did for me." The message to the world. One evening, Ion was invited to speak at a major event. He didn't want to go, but his team insisted. Ion went on stage, looked at thousands of faces, and said only this: "If Allah removes someone from your life, don't chase them. If he closes a door, don't knock twice. If people hurt you, don't seek revenge. Allah's justice never misses." The hall went silent. Some cried, some nodded. Some finally understood the storms they had survived. The final sujud. Years later, Ion grew older, more respected, more peaceful. One night he woke up for tahajjud. He stood before Allah, whispered, "Ya Allah, you rebuilt me when the world broke me. You lifted me when people tried to bury me. You protected me in silence and raised me without noise." He went into sujud, a long, peaceful sujud from which he never got up again. Allah took him in the position he loved most. In the moment he was closest to him. In the silence he lived his whole life through. The legend they remember. People didn't remember Ion for his wealth or power or success. They remembered him as the man who spoke little but changed many. The man they tried to break but Allah rebuilt. The man whose silence was louder than revenge. The man whose patience defeated tyrants. The man who rose without noise. Ion became a legend, not because he fought, but because he never needed to. Every transformation begins with a moment you don't forget. Not because it was special, but because it broke you. Your life felt heavy. Your routines became cages. Your dreams quiet. You watched other people rise. You watched the opportunities you wanted slip into someone else's hands. You felt time moving faster than your progress. And one night, you stared at the ceiling and whispered to yourself, "I can't live like this anymore." That was the moment everything began. The moment the old version of you died, even though nobody knew it yet. The withdrawal, you didn't announce your change. You didn't post about it. You didn't tell friends. You didn't ask for approval. You simply vanished. People thought you were acting different. They thought you were quiet. What they didn't know was that you were building a new identity. Cut to scenes of closed-door notebook phone on silent, dim desk lamp late-night grind. Evolution is not loud. It is not glamorous. It is not for spectators. You weren't isolating yourself from the world. You were isolating yourself from distractions. You withdrew to upgrade. The first upgrades, the first changes were small. A new morning routine, a notebook full of goals, a calendar that finally had structure. You started studying things most people ignore. Finance, health, discipline, psychology, habits. You learned the truths no one teaches you. Emotion is a weapon. Energy is a currency. Presence is power. Consistency is royalty. Cut, visual of pages turning fast. Your first upgrades were invisible to others but undeniable to yourself. The deep work era, this was the era where you became dangerous. Hours of deep focus, no notifications, no petty drama, no excuses. While others chased entertainment, you chased improvement. You read when they scrolled, you trained when they slept. You learned skills while they wasted time. People asked, "Why are you so quiet?" If only they knew. You were in the middle of a silent revolution. Battles no one saw. Your journey wasn't clean. You stumbled, you fell, you failed, but every setback taught you something. You fought laziness, self-doubt, loneliness, past trauma, fear of failure. These battles were not visible, but they shaped you more than victory ever could. Shattered glass, hands shaking, shadowed room, deep breathing. The world celebrates winners, but it never sees the wars they fought in private. Mind reprogramming, this is when you rewired your mind. You challenged beliefs you carried for years. You replaced weakness with discipline, comfort with hunger, fear with strategy, dreaming with execution. You didn't need motivation. You built systems, you built habits, you built discipline. Your mind stopped asking for permission. It started giving orders. Shadow progress. Months passed, and slowly, silently, you became unrecognizable. Your body changed. Your mindset sharpened. Your skills expanded. Your confidence solidified. But still no one noticed, because real growth happens in the dark long before it shines in public. Return to the surface. The day came when you stepped back into the world, not as who you were, but as who you secretly became. People looked at you differently. They couldn't explain it. Something about you had changed. Your energy, your presence, your silence, your power. They asked, "How did you improve so fast?" You smiled, because they would never understand the hours, the pain, the battles, or the darkness you carved your greatness out of. The silent upgrade. You didn't evolve to impress anyone. You didn't upgrade to prove anything. You did it because you finally realized your potential was waiting. Your transformation was not loud. It was not flashy. It was silent but unstoppable. And now, everyone who doubted you, everyone who overlooked you, everyone who underestimated you must face the truth. You became someone they never saw coming. Someone stronger. Someone smarter. Someone unshakable. You are the storm they ignored until it arrived. This is the power of a silent upgrade, and this is just the beginning. Silent upgrade, the dark ascension. In silence, you rebuilt yourself, but evolution is not the end. It is the beginning. When you return stronger, the world reacts, people shift, challenges rise, enemies awaken. This is not just a transformation. This is your dark ascension. The uncomfortable spotlight. People feel your upgrade before they see it. Your presence pulls their attention. Your silence creates pressure. Your progress creates fear. Not everyone celebrates your rise. Some become intimidated. Some become jealous. Some pretend to support you while quietly hoping you fall. Cut visuals, eyes staring, whispering mouths, shadows around the main character, slow, cold close-up shots. You didn't ask for attention, but your evolution forced it. And now, you must face the consequences of becoming powerful. The return of old demons. Growth doesn't erase your demons, it exposes them. The fears you buried, the insecurities you hid, the past you tried to forget, all return not to break you, but to test your new strength. Cut visuals, dark room flashbacks, shadows representing the past, hands clenching, breathing heavy. Every demon whispers the same thing. You haven't changed. But this time, you don't run, you face them, you fight them, and for the first time, they fear you. The isolation phase to upgrading yourself once was hard. Upgrading yourself again while carrying expectations, pressure, and judgment is war. So you withdraw again, not to escape, but to sharpen. You cut off distractions, you protect your energy, you guard your mind. Cut visuals, closed doors, deep focus scenes, night shot city lights through window gym scenes alone. This is the second isolation. More painful, more intense, more necessary, because the higher you climb, the quieter your world must become. The relapse and rebuild cycle. Greatness is not a straight line. You fall, you break, you slip. This time the fall hurts more because now you know your potential, and failing your potential is worse than failing your past. Cut visuals, empty gym, crumpled paper, messy desk, head in hands, running in the rain, but every setback hits differently now. It doesn't destroy you. It rebuilds you, because you no longer fear failure, you study it. And you rise from it stronger than before. The tactical mind upgrade flips, typing fast, glitch SFX narrator. Your mind begins operating like a weapon, sharp, calculated, focused, strategic. You learn patterns in people, you see intentions clearly, you recognize fake support, you sense silent threats. Cut visuals, notes, diagrams, close-up eyes, scenes of intense reading and research. Your intelligence becomes your armor. Your awareness becomes your shield. Your discipline becomes your sword. This is not motivation, this is warfare. The new fear you create, people start noticing something strange about you. You're calmer, but more intense. You're quieter, but more powerful. You speak less, but your words cut deeper. Your silence begins to frighten people. Your discipline intimidates them. Your consistency exposes their excuses. Cut visuals. People stepping back, shocked faces, slow motion walk scenes. They don't fear what you say. They fear what you've become. A version of yourself they never believed you could be. The lone victory, and then it happens. You win something quietly. A breakthrough, a major step. A victory no one helped you achieve. There's no celebration, no applause, no recognition. Just you staring at your reflection, realizing how far you've climbed alone. Cut visuals, mirror reflection, dim room, slow breathing, candle or lamp glow. This victory is silent, but it changes everything. Because now you know you don't need approval. You don't need validation. You don't need witnesses. Your power is self-made. Dark ascension, you are no longer who you were, not even close. You transformed, you rebuilt. You ascended, not through noise, but through darkness. Not through attention, but through discipline. Not through comfort, but through pain. Your evolution became your weapon. Your silence became your strategy. Your suffering became your fuel. You are no longer upgrading. You are ascending. Silently, relentlessly, unstoppably. And now the world will feel the power of the version of you they never saw coming. Silent upgrade, the noise you stopped listening to fade in low rumbling drone. A slow heartbeat, black screen. There comes a moment in your evolution when the world keeps talking, but you stop listening, not out of arrogance, not out of pride, but because you finally understand. Most voices were noise, and noise was the reason you couldn't hear your own destiny. Slowly emerging silhouette walking in a dim alley. You didn't disappear, you simply unplugged. The disconnect, the old you used to react, every comment, every insult, every whisper behind your back. You wasted years defending yourself to people who weren't even qualified to speak your name, but something changed. One morning you woke up and realized you owe no explanations, you owe no apologies, you owe no response. Your silence became the most powerful language you ever learned. People thought you were acting different. They were right. You were evolving, and evolution is always mistaken for attitude by those who don't understand it. The analysis of your old self, you started watching your old self like a stranger, the version of you that struggled, that begged for validation, that chased approval. You looked at that version and whispered, "Thank you for surviving, but I'm taking over from here." The world didn't notice this moment, but your life divided into two eras: before the upgrade, after the upgrade. The uncomfortable truth, not everyone will like the new you. Why? Because the new you exposes what they refuse to fix in themselves. Your discipline makes them uncomfortable. Your silence makes them insecure. Your growth makes them feel left behind. They don't want you to change, not because they care, but because your evolution eliminates their excuses, and deep down they know it. The new mindset, your mind is not the same. You stopped complaining. You started calculating. You stopped hoping. You started working. You stopped doubting. You started building. You began replacing feelings with strategy, pain with purpose, loneliness with laser focus. You don't need applause anymore. You became your own motivation, your own critic, your own competition. The future that waits, you're no longer chasing the future. You're designing it piece by piece, habit by habit, sacrifice by sacrifice. You don't talk about your goals anymore because you're too busy becoming them. And one day, when you return to the world in full force, when they finally see the new version of you, they will ask, "Where did this come from?" And you will smile, because the truth is simple. It came from the nights they never knew you were fighting. It came from the silence they never knew was strategy. It came from the upgrade they never believed you had the courage to make. Silent upgrade, the version they never saw coming, low metallic drone. A distant thunder roll. Every transformation reaches a point where silence is no longer hiding you, it's sharpening you. This is that point. The ghost phase, you disappeared from the places that drained you. You detached from people who slowed you down. You became a ghost, but not the kind that haunts others, the kind that haunts your own potential. You roam through your memories, your regrets, your unfinished dreams, studying them like a blueprint for the empire you're about to build. Most people fear being alone, not you. You fear going back to the person you used to be. The weight you started lifting, here, that's what nobody sees. The weight you're lifting every day isn't iron, it's not dumbbells, it's not gym plates, it's the weight of discipline, the weight of responsibility, the weight of becoming someone you don't have to run away from anymore. You carry pressure like armor now, not because it's easy, but because you finally understand. Strength is built in silence long before it's seen in public. The world clap for training, people don't praise your grind. They don't cheer while you build. They don't support you while you're invisible. And you know what? They're not supposed to. Training is not a spectacle. Sacrifice is not entertainment. Growth is not a viral moment. You're in the stage of life where nobody applauds because nobody's supposed to see the work. This phase is for you, not for the world. The shift in your energy, you began protecting your peace with violence, not physical violence, but ruthless emotional boundaries. You stopped explaining yourself. Stopped chasing people, stopped keeping relationships alive that died a long time ago. Your silence became a filter. Everyone who didn't deserve you removed themselves. Everyone who underestimated you exposed themselves. You didn't lose anyone. You simply made room for the life you're building. The reconstruction inside you, something new is forming. A blueprint, a code, a mentality built from scars and ambition. You can feel it, that version of you who hesitated. Gone. The version who feared judgment. Dead, the version who kept shrinking so others could feel comfortable. Buried. And now, beneath the silence, beneath the discipline, beneath the nights nobody knew about, a new version is forming. A version that doesn't break. A version that does fold. A version that doesn't apologize for existing. The warning when you return, when you re-enter the world with this new power, with this new mindset, with this new intensity, people will say you changed. They're right. You changed in ways they never believed you could. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was preparation. Your absence wasn't failure, it was strategy. And now, the version they never saw coming is the one they will never forget. A single heartbeat, then silence. Silent upgrade the day you stopped asking for permission, a low rumble. The sound of a distant storm, a single breath, slow, controlled, unshakable. There comes a moment in every transformation when you stop negotiating with your old self and you start giving orders. This is that moment. No more permission, you woke up one day and felt something different. Not excitement, not fear, not motivation, something much more dangerous, self-authority. You stopped waiting for people to understand you. You stopped waiting for approval. You stopped waiting for the right time because you finally realized nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to validate you. Nobody is coming to give you permission to grow. You were born with the right to upgrade. You just forgot to use it until now. The quiet decision, the biggest decisions in life happen silently. No announcement, no celebration, just a quiet moment when you look in the mirror and whisper to yourself, never again. Never again will you shrink. Never again will you settle. Never again will you wait for someone to tell you it's okay to dream bigger. This is the decision that separates who survives from who dominates. The price of evolution, transformation, is not free. It charges you something: sleep, comfort, friendships. Your old identity, you paid the price, without discounts, without complaints. And that's what makes you dangerous now. Everyone wants to evolve, but only the few are willing to give up the version of themselves that keeps them weak. You performed self-surgery on your life. You removed everything that infected your purpose. And now the wound is healing into power. The new standard, your standards changed. Quietly, rapidly, completely. You stopped tolerating laziness in yourself and in others. You stopped doing things that drain your soul. You stopped defending people who never defended you. Your new standard is simple. If it doesn't help your growth, it doesn't get access to you. And for the first time, you're not sorry about it, not even a little. The silent fire, people don't see the fire in you yet, but they feel it. In the way you walk, in the way you speak, in the way your silence became heavier than other people's loudness. You're burning without smoke. You're rising without noise. You're changing without permission, and when fire grows quietly, it grows uncontrollable. The shift THEY can't ignore. Soon your presence will hit differently, not because you're louder, not because you're stronger, not because you're better, but because you're no longer the version they used to control. Your silence upgraded your spirit, your discipline upgraded your destiny, your suffering upgraded your strength. And when you return, people won't ask where you've been. They'll ask, how did you become this? The answer: you stopped asking for permission. You started becoming unstoppable. A long, heavy silence, then a final, rising bass note. Silent upgrade, the rise of the unrecognizable you. A cold wind blows, a hollow echo, a heartbeat, slow, then growing stronger. There is a stage of transformation where you become unrecognizable, not to others, but to yourself. This is that stage. The mirror match anymore. You look at yourself now and something feels off. Not wrong, not broken, just different. Like the reflection isn't a memory of your past, but a preview of your future. Your eyes changed first, not in color, in intensity. You don't look tired anymore. You look focused, dangerously focused, like you're not searching for yourself. You're building yourself, piece by piece, layer by layer, version by version. You outgrew your own history. You stopped fitting into the stories you used to tell about yourself. I'm not good enough. Gone. I can't do this. Dead. This is just who I am. Buried. You outgrew your excuses the same way a snake outgrows its skin. Quietly, violently, completely. And now the old you is too small to contain the person you're becoming. That's why you feel different. You are different. The shift in your energy terrifies people. People sense something rising inside you. Not anger, not ego. Power, real power, internal power. Power that doesn't need attention because it already has direction. You used to chase people, now they watch you. You used to explain yourself. Now your silence explains everything. You used to fit in. Now you make others question why they ever tried to keep you small. You didn't become intimidating, you became free, and freedom scares the trapped. The BREAKPOINT that made you, there was a moment, you remember it, where you almost gave up. You almost walked away, almost collapsed, almost surrendered, but you didn't. You broke, yes, but you broke open, not apart. And from that fracture came a new version of you, sharper, colder, quieter, stronger. Some people never recover from their breaking point. You were reborn by it. The new minimum, your new minimum effort is better than your old maximum. That's how you know you've changed. You don't need motivation. You need direction. You don't seek approval. You seek progress. You don't wait for the right moment. You become the moment. Your discipline is no longer something you force. It's who you are. You became the person your old self dreamed of being. The world isn't ready for this version of you. The world has categories for people. Boxes, limits, lanes. You just outgrew all of them. They won't know how to talk to you now, how to label you, how to predict you. Because the new you was built in silence, forged in struggle, and born in a moment nobody witnessed but you. They can't recognize you because they didn't create you. You created you in isolation, in darkness, in discipline. And now you rise, not slowly, not quietly, but inevitably. A heartbeat turns into a war drum. The music rises, dark, powerful, unstoppable.